Welcome everybody to the Tea with Ms McGill Show, fueled by Blue Line Brews. It is Reed Larson. It is Puka. We got a very special guest we'll introduce here in just a second. So off the top, of course, Blue Line Brews. See them in the background. We're in the beautiful Blue Line Brews studio here. So this is kind of what it looks like. So this coffee is available at stores in northern Wisconsin, Twin Ports, Bemidji area, across the Iron Range. As always, 10% of profits go back to families of fallen officers, injured officers. So it's good coffee with a good cause. We've got 3 different blends, basically a medium, a dark, and a darker, Justice, Detective Special, and Stakeout. So like I said, look for this label. If you want to go to the website, bluelinebrews.com, save 15 is the promo code. You'll save 15% on your entire order. They also have K-Cups, which of course are very popular these days. So thanks to Blue Line Brews for everything you're doing. And like I said, Reed Larson is here, continuing our interview format. This will be our final show, I believe, and then our next show will be kind of our preseason show in late October, early November, and then it'll be time to dig into the season.
Absolutely, time to rock and roll. But like Puka said, we're wrapping up the interview, and a great way to wrap up the interview to bring in a fellow Iron Range guy that has been in the coaching world, been in the playing world, and now has been on the big screen. Nice to have Jeff Terrell with us. Jeff, welcome to the Tea with Ms McGill. How's it going today, brother?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome, Jeff. We go back a long ways. We go back to my days of playing high school hockey against you, and you've always got that. I beat you when we played you when you were in Rapids. You got that. We go into college a little bit. I was at UWS. You were at St. Scholastica, and now there were some years there where we bumped some heads across the way from Virginia to Eveleth, and just what we're looking for from you, Jeff. First, to start off with, let's hear about your days of playing hockey in Eveleth and what that's meant to you to now obviously be living in Eveleth and be part of that hockey community.
Well, to be brought up in that hockey tradition and to be kind of mentored by some of the former greats in Eveleth, it's a lot like a lot of Iron Range towns. I mean, whether it's Rapids, whether it's Greenway, Hibbing, Virginia, Eveleth, Gilbert, hockey's we live hockey, and to be brought up in this and to be in that community and then continue in that community, I've been blessed.
You certainly have that Eveleth tradition. There's you mentioned it. There's other great communities in the area, but there's none better than where I think Iron Range hockey, Minnesota hockey started, and it started right there in Eveleth at the Hippodrome with some of the best teams that have ever come through and some of the greatest high school hockey players to ever play still to this day with some of the records like Mayasich and whatnot that have been come onto that program. You grew up playing on the outdoor rinks there right across from your place there where you reside or where you used to live. You got the rink there right behind high school, Eveleth High School. You grew up playing at the Hip. Talk about some of the playing career for Eveleth. Youth hockey.
Well, I think the playing career just speaks mostly of the teams that I played on. We had, it was fun growing up in youth hockey. We always had the Mariucci tournament and the Lepresti tournament, which when we went through and even Puka went through, we got some bigger teams, the Dinas, the Minnetonkas of the world, to come up and play in the Hippodrome. So we had some fun times doing that. And then to get to play high school for the Golden Bears and Coach Homeland, Coach Pizzelli. And we had some fair teams. We lost in a section championship game in '96, which we won't get into, gentlemen. But anyways, was truly, like I said before, was blessed to be part of that and be part of those teams. And we grew up, and when I say we, it was friends. We didn't have people moving in. It was all the friends that you grew up with, and the same went for you, gentlemen. And that makes it even more special. We didn't have any world beating teams, but we were the start of. Well, actually, I was kind of sandwiched in between the '93 and the '98 state tournament teams, but we had a good run there in the '90s, and we were, our teams can kind of hold our head up that we were part of that.
So you come from for those that don't know, you come from a rich hockey family. Your dad played for the Gophers. You got your cousins, Doug Terrell that played for UMD. Steve Terrell's drafted. I think he ended up with a knee injury in football his senior year or something like that. And things kind of went south. So just kind of talk about that influence on you.
Well, you grow up and you're watching those guys. I remember being at the Memorial Building many times, watching my cousins Doug and Steve when they were playing for Hibbing High School, and you wanted to be part of that atmosphere, that great high school atmosphere, and it still carries on today. You have the kind of rivalry games like the Greenway Rapids game where you fill the house, and it's a special atmosphere. We used to have it with Virginia, but of course now the Rock Ridge combination kind of shut that down. But I saw that as a kid growing up, and watching my cousins play, and of course learning about my dad and the teams that he played on, and with the Gophers and some of the names. So you kind of get brought up with just kind of having some of that in your head, and you're thinking about it, and you follow it, and then you get into it. And that's what I tried to do as a coach with kids at a young age, just getting them interested in hockey and getting them interested in names of the past or teams of the past, whether it's high school, college, or pro, and getting them interested in hockey, interested in the outdoor rinks, interested in where, where you develop those skills and where hockey started.
Yeah, that's the tradition, I think, is something that speaks volumes about, just from a coaching aspect. I can go back and talk about some of the great days when, we played against each other back in 96 and 95 was Rapids and Eveleth Gilbert. But I think some of the things that you did when you were coaching were phenomenal, just bringing back the tradition. That you went from some great coaches like Homola and Pizzelli, and there was a gap in there where people were coaching at Eveleth High School that weren't from the area. They were from out of the area, and it was kind of difficult to understand and know that tradition. But when you took the job and tried to bring a lot of that back, and I can give you a lot of credit for doing that. You brought people in like Johnny Mayasich to talk to teams and got involved and got the kids and the students involved in the old Eveleth community, which I think was a huge part of what you did.
Well, I had been, coaching youth hockey for a number of years and ingrained in the program and ingrained in Eveleth and Gilbert, and, further on Eveleth, Gilbert, Mesabi East, because we'd be remiss if we didn't include Mesabi East into some of our teams. And that started way back when I was coaching Bantams many, many years ago, when they didn't have a Bantam A team, and they had some skilled kids, and they were looking to play Bantam A hockey. So they started coming over to play with the Eveleth Gilbert kids. And then, of course, Mesabi East high school team didn't exist anymore for a number of reasons. So we started co-oping and combining with Mesabi East, and, many of our captains, many of the kids I loved over the 10 years that I coached high school were Mesabi East kids. I mean, it didn't matter where they were from. But they also have their hockey tradition, and while it might not be as big as Eveleth or Grand Rapids, they still have a number of players that came out of Aurora or Hoyt Lakes that they looked up to, and that they thought were special players. So getting those kids involved and thinking about their past as well, that's what we tried to do.
Yeah, I think about some of those Mesabi East guys you're talking about. I think about some of the guys that I when I coached at Virginia and coached against, I think about some of those names that came through there. But even going back to some of those kids that they looked up to, maybe they looked up to guys like Troy Scott or Eric Hansen or guys like that played, that were Mesabi East guys that were pretty darn good hockey players that good people to look up to.
Yeah, let me get a quick ad read in here for Iron Range Apparel, official in the Thunderbird Mall, the official home of the ODR swag. So, hockey's gonna be starting soon, kids. Get your ODR swag. You want to look really cool when you get to the rink. We call it the gift buyer's paradise. There's a little something for everybody in there. There's a lot of hockey stuff, but there's non-hockey stuff too. A lot of Minnesota themed stuff, coffee cups, koozies, shirts, flannels, everything. Even I bought a buddy of mine some what do you call onesies? I have 4 kids. I can't remember those days, but those little onesies and stuff. So the Richters, they do a great job. They're crushing it there. So Iron Range Apparel, the Thunderbird Mall. So Reed was talking about that tradition when you were coaching. And I noticed, because I had spent some time playing men's league over in Eveleth, is when you took the job, you hung up all the pictures of the greats, throughout the locker room, the Homelas, the Deliches, all those names, Carpin, that was pretty cool. Did you ever notice the kids looking at them? They ever talk about it? They ever ask you about any of those guys?
Well, I think the biggest was when we had Mark Harpin on the staff for 3-4 years as a volunteer coach, and he would come to practices and help out. And Mark's a very low key, very quiet guy, so he would never bring attention to something like that. But I think one of the kids one of the days looked up at his picture up on our college wall and said, "Hey, isn't that you?" And then started asking about carps a little bit. But yeah, not too much, but we tried to at least make a presence felt for names of the past and just things that I think kids should attain to become. When we're talking about hockey, now of course as coaches, and Reed can attest to this, we want to develop good people first, but at the same time you're playing a sport, you want to play at as high a level that you can play at. And just seeing some of those pictures on the wall, I know when I was growing up, I loved looking at pictures of players who had played in the pros or college and thought that could be me.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, there's, from a coaching standpoint, like you said, Jeff, there's the goal that everybody has as a coach, and then there's the purpose. And the goal of coaching is to win. You want to go out there, you want to compete. That's your goal every single day that you step on the ice. But the purpose is bigger than that. The purpose is, whatever you dig down deep, you're trying to, and you and I coach boys hockey. So the idea is for us to create men, to create great husbands, to create great fathers, and to be a great community member. That's the purpose, and that's high school sports in a nutshell. But you create a really good conversation when you say things like that. So, kind of digging in.
Well, and I also think, Reed, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Okay.
I think you can agree with this too. We want not only the creation of good people, but we want the boys to create memories for themselves, good memories. Not every team can make the state tournament. That's the ultimate goal, of course, get down there and win the state tournament. But more than that, we want them to have good memories of their playing career, because playing careers don't last very long. And we want them to be able to be our age and kind of embellish a little bit about some of the great times they had when they played high school hockey.
Well, that's for sure, 100%. We'll get to some of those memories, because some of those memories aren't the trips to the XL Energy Center like you and I always wish we could do with some of our teams. We didn't get to do that in Eveleth and Virginia, but some of those memories that you got to do that last year that you were coaching there, we're going to get to that in a little bit here. But
Well, no, we'll get into that. Yeah, I want to go down memory lane just a little bit, and I hate to bring this one up because it ended up being one in the last column for you. But that game against Virginia was at sixth period. You were on the mic.
I think I was calling the game.
And was that the most exciting game that you coached in your high schools? I know you coached Bantams too, but in the high school realm, was that one of the most exciting, memorable nights?
That was an unbelievable game, and of course we ended up on the wrong end of it, not for a lack of effort, not for a lack of chances. It just didn't work out, and that was quite the game to go into 3 overtimes when you're in a playoff game and you're in front of a packed house. Everybody on the edge of their seat, we're jumping around like we're kids on the bench. Probably a little bit more excited than we should have been, but that was an excitable game, and
It was awesome.
it was a fun game.
I remember watching it. I think I was watching it on YouTube, or I can't even remember if that's when Up North Hockey had started, but I can't remember which student section the camera angle was coming from, but I don't think they sat the whole game. I mean, they were jumping around, like you said, the energy in the building, classic Iron Range matchup, Virginia Eveleth, it doesn't get any bigger. Quarterfinal game, correct?
Yeah, it was just a quarter game, but I think it was another 4-5 game. So 2 evenly matched teams, and of course it showed.
We had a lot of those too. That wasn't the only one that we had over the course of the year. That you had that one with. I was a year or 2 out, or maybe it was my first year out when I had moved out of Virginia. But I think that was the next year. But we had a couple other ones just similar to that, and a couple other playoff games. One we had was scheduled one. I think that was a a 4 or 5 seed quarterfinal game that we were getting ready to play, and we had weather and it got canceled, and we had to come back the next day and play the game at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And we still figured out a way to pack the Miners Memorial Building. It's unbelievable, some of the games that we got to experience coaching against each other and our boys playing against each other. Those games, packed house at the Miners Memorial Building, you can't find anything better other than on your side of things, maybe a packed house in December. And I always remember the date. It's either December 14th, 15th, or 16th, the very first matchup between Virginia and Eveleth in the Hippodrome. It was always first at the Hip, and the Hip was always fun to play at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great high school hockey venue in my mind, just because you have the traditional arena seating and everybody's close, probably too close. Because in one of the games during the Hockeyland year, this is a funny story. It was another one against Greenway, not against Virginia, but against Greenway, who this group of kids had a huge rivalry against. In a 1-goal game, it's going back and forth. It's pretty good, and all of a sudden, Ben with Trombley shoots one, throws one up high on the glass. Well, we don't have high glass at the Hippodrome, as you well know. So it hits the high glass in the corner, but it rockets into the crowd. And all of a sudden, I start looking, and it's my stepdaughter who gets knocked out by the puck.
No,
Oh, gosh. Oh, shoot.
blood on the streets.
A little bit of blood, a little bit of hospital visit, but I'll tell you what, I think she would have been a good third line plumber winger on our team, because she toughed it out, and she made it. She made it to school the next day. So I think she's tougher than a lot of our boys were.
I was going to say, the question is after it smacked her in the side of the head, it sounds like she's pretty tough. Did you check the puck to make sure it wasn't square after that?
It could have been. I don't know where the puck ended up, but I do know where the jersey ended up. And we'll leave that for another day. But
I love it.
Oh, that's great. All right, real quick here. Word for Minnesota Hockey Camps.
Yeah, Minnesota Hockey Camps, now located in Breezy Point, Minnesota, formerly in Nisswa and out of Brainerd. Now for the last couple of years has been out of Breezy Point, really starting to kind of set their roots into that area. It's been a good couple of summers here at Breezy Point for Minnesota Hockey Camps under new ownership. Chris Stewart, Craig Larson, and Tony Massieri taking the reins on that there. And then again, really good if you're looking for a place to go for a fantastic hockey camp in the summertime. They'll start posting some of those things on their website right when the season gets to about the midpoint. Get into about January, when it's the dog days, when you're like, holy cow, is the season almost over? You're grinding.
40 below.
Then they're thinking, hey, now you need to start thinking about summer hockey. This is the place to go. It's the camp where the pros go. Great people there. Breezy Point, Minnesota Hockey Camps.
So obviously, Eveleth hockey no more, Virginia Blue Devil hockey no more, Rock Ridge, you step aside. Just kind of thoughts on the future of the youth program all the way through the high school program. You're pretty bullish on things. Do you think it's going to turn out to be a good deal over there?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of good people involved, and from both sides, from the Eveleth Gilbert and the Virginia side, and they have they have good ideas on where they're going, and some different facilities and some different things to utilize now with the IT Mech over here in Virginia, and I think they're in a good place. Hate it that they don't have the old rivalry, but that's a selfish personal thing. I think for the kids coming up, I think it's good.
Yeah, on just eliminating another team on the range too. Like I said, Mesabi's gone, Chisholm gone now.
It doesn't go back as far for me when it comes to the Virginia Eveleth, but it's still deep in my heart. Those games twice, maybe 3 times a year, were some of the best and most competitive games that we had. It didn't matter if Eveleth was up that year, or Virginia was up that year. All these kids were ready to play. It was the Bears versus the Blue Devils, and it's tough to see it go. But some of us stubborn old people have to say maybe what's best for the kids is this. And I think there's some things down the road here that are going to be kind of exciting to see with Rock Ridge. But yeah, selfishly, you and Jeff, you and I can have an adult beverage sometime and talk about the good old days.
Well, so speaking of the Rock Ridge now, I guess I don't know the answer to this. It's just something I thought about. Reed was talking. Did they play any of the Wolverines games at the Hip this past year? Or are they all at the
They did half and half,
Oh,
both boys and girls, and they will this upcoming season. That's close, pretty close to half and half.
Okay. So the rink is still being utilized. That's great news. All right.
Well, I do think, and I hate to cut you off, but I think the world of hockey, and Reed knows this, this, Puka, the hockey community is small when we think about this. And I think it would be a huge loss if high school hockey was not played in the Hippodrome.
I agree.
Boys and girls.
I agree. I think it's a facility that's got history. And there's one thing that you could say too, that whether you're coaching in Virginia or whether you're coaching in Eveleth, you rarely had a problem putting teams on your schedule because everybody wanted to come up and play in those rinks. They all wanted to come over to the Hippodrome and make sure they come up for a Virginia Eveleth swing. It was really easy for Jeff and I to get on the phone and say, hey, these teams are calling us. Who do we want to take to come in and do this? And it was pretty awesome because we want to play in the Hippodrome. We want to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And then the next night we want to go over to Virginia and play in the minors. Like there's teams from all over, from down south that make a weekend of it. And it's like people like golf ball size eyeballs looking at the stuff that's in the building there, the banners, all the pictures at the Hippodrome. The Hippodrome's like a museum to those people.
Absolutely. Speaking of Eveleth, next time you're there, folks, the Rink Sports Bar and Grill right on Highway 53, just down from the aforementioned Hockey Hall of Fame, Friday night fish fry, daily lunch specials. You can order online. The Rink Sports Bar and Grill.com is where you go for that. 248-8582 is where you can also call in. So like I said, daily specials, full bar, full menu. Michelle's the owner there. She'll take really good care of you. And if you're really lucky, Jeff Terrell will be there sipping an adult beverage. You can get his autograph. So speaking of autographs, we got to talk about the movie star that he's become.
That's what I was about. This is what I'm excited about right now.
On the big screen. I just checked on the way over, now showing in Virginia, or Mountain Iron, I guess, technically in the movie theater, now showing in Hibbing in the movie theater, now showing in Grand Rapids in the movie theater, and all across the country. I saw a Facebook post today now, some theaters down in Chicago, a Hockeyland documentary. I don't know, where do you want to start on that? I guess, or maybe I'll ask you the first question that came to mind is, they follow you basically every day. I mean, how many hours of footage do you think these guys got? Because I did get the privilege of going to the screening with you and your wife at the Hibbing High School Auditorium back in January, and now the thing's really blown up. It's awesome.
They, well, we can give a little history on it. These brothers, JT Haynes and Tommy Haynes, along with a couple others, put together a documentary a number of years ago called Pond Hockey. A follow-up to Pond Hockey was a picture book of rinks that they put together, also titled Pond Hockey, which they came up to the Franklin rink in Eveleth and took a lot of pics. And I would say that was probably about 8 or 9 years ago. So I got to really know Tommy Haynes. So when he came up with this idea to document high school hockey in northern Minnesota, he gave me a call and he said, well, what are your thoughts on this? I was a bit hesitant at first because you never know how they're going to portray the boys, portray the community. But in talking with them over a period of time, developing an even bigger respect and trust for them and what their vision was and what they were doing, I thought it'd be a fun idea for the boys. And so they started in the summer. They started interviewing some of the players, and then they got into the season. Now, to answer your question, Puka, how often or how long they were with us, they would choose a week, like a week of a big game, and they would spend the week with us. Early in the season, they spent a little bit more time, and as the season wore on, they would call me up and say, Jeff, we want to come up for the week because we know you play so-and-so on Saturday night. So we want to spend the week with you kind of gearing up for that and get footage of the boys. They spent a ton of time with the boys outside of the rink. And to me and my wife, we think that's the coolest thing, to see the teams and the boys, whether it's Eveleth, Gilbert, Hermantown, to see them outside of the locker room, to see them off the ice, just doing kid stuff and having fun. And that was a treat to see that and see what they got of the kids, kind of just being kids, you know.
Yeah, that whole setup of that it's awesome that JT and Tommy and you connected. Just real quick, going back just a little bit of history, I had met JT and Tommy a couple of years previous to that, and they had called me up, a couple of Mountain Iron guys. They had called me up and said, "Hey, we're looking at doing something." And I remember they showed me that they gave me a copy of the pond hockey documentary that they did, and it was kind of cool. They said, "We're looking to do something with hockey in the area. We want to focus on a hockey team." And they spent a weekend with us over in Virginia. It was the start of the season in 2013 and 2014. So they came with us on the weekend. They took some footage of the Jamboree. They took some footage of us when we brought some boys down to the Wild game for our senior trip. They followed us around. We talked to them a little bit. And then they kind of started to do their own thing. I think they were starting to kind of dip into, we want to talk to these people. We want to talk here, look around. But it seems to me that this was some of the research that they were doing with area hockey. And then they landed with you, which I think was awesome. They were doing the pre-research for a couple of years before they got into the movie. And we were part of that pre-research, but they brought it back to where I think Iron Range hockey started, which is Eveleth. I think they brought that in there. They brought Eveleth into it, and they bring in Hermantown, who's kind of the area perennial power. And now we're kind of following guys around. I think that was really awesome. I got a chance to talk to Trouty at Troutwine a little bit about it when we were visiting a few months ago for one of our interviews. So that little background there, just kind of, I guess, my kind of claim to fame to being a small part of the research, I thought was kind of cool. But landing with Eveleth, landing with Hermantown. So with the movie situation, good question that you asked, by the way, Puka. Do they follow you around? And were there ever any concerns with you preliminary? I guess the biggest question I have coming from a coach would be the same questions I have if someone were going to say, we're going to come to Grand Rapids and we want to start filming your kids. What were some of those concerns as a coach that you had? Like, how are we going to be portrayed? What are they going to focus on? What are some of the things that caught you right away?
Well, as a coach, you want to protect your team. And it's not just in this situation. You want to protect your team out on the ice. You want to protect your team because they're your boys. They're your extended family. So that was my first concern, was how are they going to portray some of the boys? Because, as you know, some kids in high school get into situations that they make a bad decision. And how are they going to portray that? Because it happens. If it were to happen. The next concern I had was the community. How are they going to portray the community? I think that's always something that's important to me, is our community. And I didn't want them to, come in and give a negative light on the communities of Eveleth, Gilbert, Mesabi East, Aurora and Hoyt Lakes. And they didn't do that at all. And they told me all along, don't worry. That's not what we're about. That's not what we intend on doing. We don't intend on exploiting any of your boys. We don't intend on, shedding negative thoughts on small town USA or what, we will be fair. And to their credit, they were very fair with what they did. The third concern I had was when you're mic'd up and you forget you're mic'd up, there's a lot of hot takes they could have thrown in there. And I thank them up and down for not putting some of those hot takes in the movie.
Yeah. How do they paint the coach? What kind of light do they paint the coach in? Are they going to have to get the bleep button out at practice? Good thing they caught the times where Coach Terrell was able to watch his tongue.
So what season was that? 18, 19?
That was the 19 and 20 season.
Okay. So the COVID years that came in a little bit. So, okay. So, I mean, how awesome for you though. I mean, you'll always have that, right? I mean, a professionally documented season of yours and the kids. I mean, it's just a win-win-win all the way around.
So blessed and feel so great that, that season was captured for the boys and for myself, that it'll always be there. Like you said, it's, you tend to forget things over the years, and we're not getting any younger, gentlemen. Our memories aren't what they used to be. So we'll be able to put that on and see some of the things and remember some of the fun we had during that season. And it was also a special season. My boy was on the team. He was one of the goaltenders in the mix. So, that's another reason it's special to me.
Well, not only we were talking about this earlier, and I said we promised we were going to get to this, that, it's not all about the memories of taking things to the XL Energy. Some of it are memories that you have away from the rink and seeing kids do things at the outdoor rinks and following kids around the school a little bit. That's some of the coolest stuff to hear about when kids go off and they come back and talk to you 10, 15 years later. And now you actually got it on film.
Yeah, I remember the homecoming scene in the screening. That was awesome. The homecoming dance.
Very cool.
That was great.
Yeah, totally awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I know you're in a hurry. You got to get it to a game yourself. I'm kind of got what I want. I got all my questions. You got anything else?
No, I think just an awesome interview opportunity for us to wrap up the interview portion of our Tea with Ms McGill show to get us into some of the pre-high school hockey. Just want to make sure that we give you a huge thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk with us and help us keep this going. We do this show for the kids. I know there's a lot of people that watch Tea with Ms McGill, but we do this for the kids. We try to get kids excited about area hockey. So we really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, Jeffrey.
Well, no, I thank you guys for having me on. And I want to say, I don't know if it's the camera angle you guys got, but it looks like you two have been hitting the gym a little bit. I'm going to have to,
it's the camera angle.
Sure. Yeah, we got the right camera. We finally found the right one, Yeah.
No, I have been hitting the gym. I might have been lifting weights. That might be a burger or two, but no, that's not for me. I've been hanging around all the linemen with coaching football over here in Grand Rapids right now. So,
oh, that's funny. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you for joining us. That's a wrap for episode 43, or excuse me, 43. Please comment. Please give us a like. Hammer that like and subscribe button right now. We'd appreciate that. If you dig the show, obviously, please share it. We got some merch for sale, $20 for any t-shirt, $22 for an extra large. Just throw a DM to us or an email at Goatsportsmediallc at gmail.com. We can figure out a way to get that to you. Thanks to our great partners, Blue Line Brews, the Ring Sports Bar and Grill in Eveleth, Iron Range Apparel in the Thunderbird Mall, Virginia, Minnesota Hockey Camps, Iron Range Goalie Academy. You can find us on Rumble. Now you can also find us in Rumble. It's under Goat Sports. Instagram, Tea with Ms McGill. We're also on Spotify if you're a podcaster. So like I said, we'll see you late October, early November for our preseason show. For Jeff Terrell, for Reed Larson, I am Puka. Get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the Tea with Ms McGill show.